Alrighty guys, so today we are going to be talking about cases of excelling during COVID-19, which I know a lot of us are really interested in because, let's be realistic, the job market's kind of scary right now. Some of us are seniors and don't have all the internships that we wanted, but we're going to make the most of it. So to introduce myself, my name's Fern Wooden, Fern like the plant, and I'm a senior here at the College of Charleston, and I'm also a Martin Scholar with a minor in theater. Outside of the Martin Scholar program, I'm also a roller derby athlete, an editorial intern with the Charleston City Paper, and a staff writer with Low Country Dog magazine. And after college, I want to pursue a career in political satire. And I know that's not necessarily along the lines of our speakers here, but you can still learn a lot from them. So I'm going to start by introducing Patty. So it is my pleasure to introduce her and some other Stellar Advisory Council members. So Patty is not only well-versed in the communications industry, helping clientele with her consultancy company, Treehouse Counsel, LLC. By setting them up with a branding strategy, she also helps mentor young professionals. Additionally, Patty also built up a $7 million corporate business-to-business crisis practice from scratch. Next, we have Janine Button, who is Executive Vice President and Chief of Staff for the Consumer Bank Association. In that position, she contributes to operations and strategies, helping shape consumer banks Association's advocacy for the retail banking industry and positioning a modern role within Washington's policies. Additionally, she has served as Vice President of External Relations Group for International Center for Research on Women, a global corporation dedicated to helping improve the lives of women in developing countries. Lastly, but not least, we also have Mike Tohel, who works as the External Communications Manager for Novels Inc. in Atlanta. The company serves as a global leader in aluminum rolled products and the largest recycler of aluminum. Previously, Mike also spent some time in the Low Country leading all public relations efforts for Kiowa Partners, the luxury real estate company out in the nicest island in Charleston. But we have some amazing people here. And if you guys have any questions, just put it through the chat and I'll read it out loud. With that, let's get going. I'll start with an icebreaker. So as I was saying earlier, there's a lot of seniors here on the call. And I think the scariest part about graduating is the uncertainty in the job market. What advice do you have for upcoming graduates? Any one of you?
I don't know that it's any different than it would be if we weren't in pandemic times. The good news is things are looking very positive. Business is very optimistic. And from what I'm seeing and hearing, not just I'm in Atlanta, but here and nationally, communications budgets are ticking back up along with that optimism. So be aware of who you're approaching and how they've weathered the storm through the year, but proceed all guns a-blazing would be my counsel.
Jeannie, you want me to go?
Thanks, Mike. I'll jump in. We are actually recruiting currently for a number of positions in our organization. With the end of a political campaign and a change in leadership, both in the House and the Senate and in the White House, there's a fair amount of churn in Washington right now. So I would ask you to consider public service. Is there something that fits your mission that's within the mission of the public sector? Because there is a tightening in the private sector. It's not to say everything's peachy in the public sector. And there is a calling for political satire right now, Fern. So I think you've picked a really good slipstream to travel. So be mindful of the different kinds of sectors of work who need terrific, passionate, capable storytellers. And my insider info on that is network. Use your networks to go to bat for you, to get a toe in the door, or once you're in the door, to bolster your case. You really do have to make yourself your own PR campaigns when you are approaching your job searches. And we just hired a new Vice President of Public Affairs, and we had amazingly capable candidates. But it was easy for us to say on paper, this person can write, this person can manage, this person, can plan a campaign, they can execute. Chemistry was super important. Once you get a chance to have a conversation to distinguish yourself from perhaps other fellow travelers in the space, but doing the research, putting in the sweat equity to understand the mission, how an organization runs itself and is financed. Look at their their 990s if they're a nonprofit. Look at their budget if you can get those information. I better stop there because Mike's probably going to say all that anyway, and he's smarter than I am.
Well,
So,
that's certainly
over
not
to you,
true,
Mike.
but yeah, I would agree, obviously, with both what Patty and Jeannie said, and I'm fairly bullish on the economic scene as well. I think there's going to be some increased spend. I think the economy is probably headed in the right direction. Business is moving. Yeah, I think marketability is a big part of what you can do to help yourselves, and by that I mean, you know, through COVID, I think a lot of organizations have learned how important communications is, and that maybe they didn't appreciate it as much prior. We have spent so much more time and resources on communicating to our internal colleagues and external stakeholders this year to reassure, right, and allow for people to manage their expectations, reduce uncertainty, things of that nature. But for new hires in the market, what we need is, to use a baseball analogy, a 5-tool player. We need you to do all the things that Jeannie just mentioned: write well, plan well, be adaptive, be passionate. But I need someone, because I can't hire one individual to do 5 individual things. I need one person to do all 5 of them, or I can't hire 5 people to do 5 things, right? So for you and the way you present yourself and market yourself, your resume, your LinkedIn, I need a lot of bandwidth, and I need skill sets that cross over from social media writing to long form writing to event planning to strategic thinking, and the marketability of your space.
Katie, do you mind putting yourself on mute, love?
So your marketability will certainly be a huge thing that you can control in an otherwise hard to control job and economic market.
Thank you. Those are really good points. Does anybody else have a question they would like to address before I ask another one?
I do have a question, Fern, if that's okay.
Yeah, Celie, do you mind just putting it in the chat for me? I'd really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks, girly. She's a fast typer.
Fern, can I
Okay,
just
Katie.
amplify one thing that Patty and Mike talked about, and that's, interview etiquette. Once you get that interview and once you have the opportunity to meet with the people who are the hiring people, remember the power of a beautifully written, sincere thank you note. And it becomes a writing sample, if you think about it, both your cover letter, your resume, and then ultimately the follow-up. Most everyone in the process we just went through, because we're working remotely, sent email thank yous. And in my organization, there's really a premium on handwritten thank you notes, and those really do cut through the clutter. But given that we're still kind of Zoom based, and also Zoom interviewing, I don't know if any of you are doing some Zoom interviewing now. Every candidate that we did a Zoom interview with made an effort to dress. Gentlemen in neckties, gentle ladies in workplace attire. They were very focused. They had, some of them had taken more time to curate their background than others. But it was interesting, the candidates who chose to stand and do the interview versus those who chose a seated position. And I might be taking us too far afield or skipping ahead, but that kind of thoughtfulness reflects on you as a communicator as well. And I just wanted to tease that out.
I'm glad you brought that up. We always like to emphasize the value of the thank you note in the Martin Scholars Program, and I think that goes way farther than people consider. So Celie has written a question for you guys. So she said that she's interviewing with a company in a different country this evening. Congratulations, Celie. It says, do you have any tips for being genuine while promoting yourself, or any advice for interviewing with someone from a different culture? And if you guys don't mind, like just giving examples on like how you can excel like in the COVID-19 era with this as well.
Yeah, we are a global business, so I deal with colleagues in Asia and Europe, quite frequently, daily, if not, weekly. I think being genuine is just being genuine. I think you either are or you aren't. So I think you need to be yourself. You're probably a genuine person to begin with, but be confident and express what you've done and how you can help the organization or the role that you're applying for. What skill sets do you bring to the team, if you will? And culturally, I think it's much more important. I assume this is probably a Zoom call. Maybe it's a video, maybe it's not. But the nuance of your of what you say and how you say it is really important. So speaking clearly, asking a follow-up if you didn't understand, if there's a language or a language barrier or that sort of thing, an accent barrier. Would you mind repeating that? So you're making sure that you are genuinely answering the right question, but also that you're being very clear in how you're presenting yourself. I think will eliminate some of that, the cultural difference. But I think what everyone's looking for, whether it's in this country or another country, is how well, you can help the team and help the organization. And so, congratulations! It's very exciting. To be working internationally would be a great life experience. But I think just being confident in who you are, what you've done, and what you bring to the team and to the organization is what I would think most interviewers are looking for.
I think that's great advice. Do either one of y'all have anything else you'd like to add? No? Okay. Janine, did you? Sorry, you look hesitant.
I was just looking for my fancy mute.
Okay.
The only thing, be very mindful of time zones, and something that might be useful to you as part of your preparation. I'm sure you've done a lit review or a Google search or a LinkedIn search of the person with whom you're interviewing. Maybe just make yourself aware or more aware of breaking news that day in the city or the country where that person is the hiring officer, just to emphasize that you're dialed in.
I think
it could come up in conversation. You could find a way to work it as an example of problem solving. Just something to be aware of.
Yeah, that's a good point. I just want to, and I know we will move on, but if you're doing this interview tonight and or this afternoon and it's evening or it's morning, you need to recognize that person's time of day, right? That is a thing that shows, to Jeannie's point, that you're just aware, but don't say good morning to someone if it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon their time.
I think those are both really good points to consider. So Meg Gold had a question for Patty. Can you talk about the communication strategies have had to pivot, in the last year because of the pandemic? What has been successful? What hasn't?
I can. And I thought about this in advance, specifically in ways, the trends are what they are, but how you all as interviewers and students can use them to express an understanding and how you can add value. So overall, all the trends are very closely related and they all make sense considering the national zeitgeist, if you will. So I'm in corporate communications. So the benefit maybe to you all is we're thinking about humans, whether they are employees or customers. How does the brand resonate in the world, right? And right now the world is upset. The world is raw. It was upset and raw from the pandemic, and then we added social issues. We had the racial dialogue increase. We had a lot of social issues. The environment has gotten even more important. We have women's issues. So, right. So 3 trends have come out of that. And these are true whether it's an executive speaking to their employees or how the brand markets products. And I would characterize them as empathy, purpose, and values and issues orientation, if you will. So, and I can give a quick example, but I'll give you a landscape for y'all to think about and ask questions. So on empathy, what I mean is you need to speak differently as a brand or as a leader, acknowledge that your target audience is a bit raw. And my best example of that, and it's easy to Google or you can look it up on my LinkedIn because I flagged it, is the CEO of Airbnb. He had to lay off a good share of his workforce. And the way he did it was a masterclass. It was empathetic. He expressed appreciation for his employees. He showed how he was going to hold to their values of diversity. And he was just really transparent. So empathy, even when you have bad news, is a trend that people are really hungry for. The second trend in purpose, one of my clients, we do surveys here in Georgia, but it's true nationally too, but 75% of working Georgians want their leaders to convey more purpose in their work. So this is not a small trend. So, and even Carol Tomei took over CEO leadership of UPS during all of this, just months ago. And of all the things she had to work on, she proudly went right to work and revamped their purpose. What'd they write? I want to get it right. Moving our world forward by delivering what matters. So this is a hard leadership issue and not difficult. I mean, a palatable leadership issues to drive value and motivate your people. And then values and issues, you as consumers are probably dialed into this, but A, it's more important than ever, and B, the sensitivity to performative behaviors is higher than ever. And what's tricky, and people of all ages and points of view and world experiences need to be at the table when businesses are making decisions, because what looks sensitive to one audience is going to fall flat to another. And what a brand feels is good to do could backfire if they are, say, making a public statement on behalf of women, but their female employees are saying, dude, you don't pay us equal. You know, it'll backfire. So really having a surround sound and listening to brands and you know, being very sensitive with real, true values demonstrations is important. And you all as young contributors in organizations can help think through all that, because no one person has all the answers.
Thank you. I think that was a really good answer. Very well thought out. So we don't have any other questions in the chat currently, but I was thinking about this topic a lot when I saw that I was assigned to it. And I think it's a really tricky job market to navigate, like I already asked you guys in that first question. But what advice do you have with standing out on a resume? I know Mike already talked about being genuine and being yourself, but in the COVID-19 era, because everything is, you know, going to look similar, but with the limitations on certain internships and trying to make yourself stand out with your coursework, what would you advise somebody to do? Any of y'all can answer that question.
You know, I think, you know, the resumes that I've seen recently, and I had a chance to talk with a senior at the college a couple of weeks ago. There was just there was just well, genuine, but it was a thorough sort of examination of the last several years of their body of work, whether that was academic on through to internships to volunteer organizations. It's difficult, right? We don't expect you to have, a very robust, if you will, to use a terrible business phrase, resume, but we'd like to see some depth. We'd like to see your ability to be engaged, right? You have hobbies, you have passions, you have things that you've tried or experienced or volunteered or you've worked on that show me that you're engaged, right? You won't have all the answers. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for someone that can adapt, that has a skill set that, like I said, starts with your academic experience and hopefully flows through to some internship experience, some volunteer experience, whether you're writing for a club, writing for the student media, those types of things. I need to see that you've dabbled at least in those things versus, some lengthy dissertation of what you want to do with your life. I need to see some there, if you will. And then that gives me enough to go on. I don't want to monopolize this answer.
No, I think that's a really good point, and I'm glad you brought that up. I think a lot of people definitely struggle with the aspect of the resume when you have to introduce yourself in that first paragraph. Like, you don't know exactly how to articulate those words per se. At least I didn't until this year.
Yeah, you're in sales, so be selling, right? In a genuine but a positive and a very factual way. But you need to tell me what you can bring to me, because that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for help. That's why we're hiring. So tell me what you can do for me first, and then we'll get into what skills you really have and how we're going to mold you and adapt and things of that nature. But this is your shot. Sell it.
So it looks like we got a couple more questions. We have time for a few more. So I'm going to ask one from a student and then one from a faculty member. So Grace Burns, or I think I pronounced her last name right. If I didn't, I apologize. Is there a specific effective approach to follow up with an email after an interview besides a thank you note?
Yes, make it personal, and I mean professional personal, but there's a young woman who I'll leave nameless, but a College of Charleston student who really wants to work somewhere where I have connections. She very gently reached out. Could she talk to me? She then gently made it clear how very much she had researched that organization, which is one of my points for you all. Prove you know that organization. Prove to me they are your top place to work. I don't care if they are or not, just prove it, right? You might, so she had done a lot of research on this organization, including reaching out to me, did not ask me for advocacy, I don't think outright, but I volunteered it because I was so impressed with her. She's followed up with me at each step. Hey, I didn't hear back yet. Should I do this other thing? Yes, you should do that other thing. Thanks for letting me know. Then, hey, she hits me. I heard back from them. Thank you so much for your advocacy. Well, I just went, and then she gave me another little tidbit, which I just used it to circle back to my people and say, this chick really wants to work here, so make it personal. Remember, don't keep asking things of the individual, but be polite and give them feedback. Hey, I'm so appreciative, it's going well, or right, and keep us engaged.
Sorry, didn't see I was on mute. I was going to say, Janine, did you want to add to that since you emphasized the thank you note, or did Patty hit every point?
Patty nailed it. Perfect 10 on the dismount. The only other thing I'd offer is go back to your networks, work your networks. Are there people in common who could then follow up on your email to say, hey, Fern is awesome. I worked with her on this project and she's perfect in every way for your organization. So think about that. Think about the role of your personal thank you note, but then think about those networks of people around you who may know that person that you're interviewing with or have interviewed with. It's very powerful.
If I could just add to your network is your peers to a large degree. Now I'm in your network, and so is Patty and Jeannie by way of this. But I recently spoke to a student who wants to relocate to New York, work in comms, so on and so forth. I connected her with a recent College of Charleston graduate who relocated to New York, took an internship, parlayed that into a job, figured out at 22 how to live in the most chaotic city in North America. Maybe not the world. And like, I don't have that, so part of that is your network can help you because they are much, much closer to the reality that you're living every day than I am as a 40-odd-year-old dad who's sitting at home working.
It was good.
Your
I like
network
that
is
point.
important, and it's your network, and your network is there, and it's the people that you've been to school with, that you're graduating with, and who have graduated before you, that you now can lean on to say, I'm trying to navigate this thing. How do I do it? You did it 18 months ago.
Okay, so we have one more question for you guys, and thank you guys so much for all your genuine answers. I know it's helping everybody a lot, especially me just listening to y'all. But Professor Tom Martin had a question for every one of you. Can you speak to what you see for the next several months as more and more people become vaccinated and business activity picks up? Will any of the habits we made in the last year change the communication landscape, such as travel?
Crystal ball. My thought is businesses are really looking hard at how they'll return to a new normal. They have invested a lot in technology in the last year in order for their employees to be able to work from home, and their employees like it. But we can't all work from home all the time without there being a drop in collaboration and connectivity. So for you should understand what their plan is. And I would say the people hurt most by working from home are you all, because you learn so much in the hallways and listening around doors and who you meet in the ladies or gentlemen's room, and you're missing out on that. So you'll need to be open to a job offer, understand when and how you'll be able to connect. I don't think we'll ever go back to as much business travel, but what it looks like, you'll need to convey that you're willing to work from home and that you have a setup if they need it, but you're willing to work in person too, and go with the flow, because they're all trying to scramble and figure it out. From my perspective. What do you guys think?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Jeannie.
Well, it's the economy is still changing. There is some potential still for mergers and acquisitions in the financial sector, and that applies pressure to budgets. And one of our largest revenue producers for my trade association is our in-person banking school and our in-person annual event. And so we've had to have a plan B that we still may have to implement depending on what happens in July and August of this year and the success of vaccines. So, we've got to be nimble and figure out where the puck is going to go if we have to provide a virtual plan B that somehow satisfies the needs of all the people who attend our banking school and who attend our annual meeting for professional development and issues. We've all had to become really nimble and learn to sort of work crazy hours and be responsive and communicate with urgency, I think, more than anything.
I agree. So our time unfortunately has run out, but I appreciate all three of you for talking with us. I encourage all of you guys to link up with them on LinkedIn. You can also link up with me. I'm not as useful as they are, but you know, I can be a helping
That's
hand.
not true. That's not true.
Agree with Mike.
All right. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks for having us. Take care.
Bye. Good luck all.